In this tutorial, I will be giving a brief introduction to Git project and followed by a short workflow example. Git project is our solution to managing a project with many rapidly changing dependent repositories. This is similar to Git submodules. However, our experience with Git submodules was that it works very well if your dependencies are not changing very often and only need to be updated once in a while. But if you have rapidly changing dependencies, or you have, say, many different people working on different branches in either your main project or your dependencies, it just didn't cut it. And Git project attempts to solve some of these issues. So I have an example here where I have created a parent repository as well as a few child repositories. The parent repository will serve as our project, and the child repositories will be the dependencies. So I've cloned the parent repository into this local folder. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a .gitproj file. So I will go ahead and create that. The first thing in your .gitproj is the version of Git project you are using. The most recent version as of the 19th of January 2018 is version 0.1.0. The second thing that should go in your .gitproj is a list of the dependent repos you want to use. Each of these has 3 space-separated entries. The first being the name of the repository. In this case, I'm going to call it child. The second one is where you want to store that repository locally with respect to the parent repository. So here I'm going to put it in dependencies/child. And finally, the last is the remote location of that repository. In this case, I've got it stored under git project example/remote/child. And so you can list as many dependent repositories as you want. In this case, I have child 1 and child 2. Okay, so save that file. And then after creating your git proj file, you'll run git project init. And what this does is it clones the dependent repositories into the location you specified. So if I see here, I now have child 1 and child 2. And if I look, I can see that the remote is actually that child repository. And the other thing that git project init does is adds that dependent repository to your gitignore. So I can see here it's now in my gitignore. So then go ahead and add your git proj in your gitignore and commit it. Okay, so the next thing you can do with Git project is you can save the state of your dependent repositories. So here we're going to save the initial state of these repositories using git project save. What this does is it adds the current branch and current commit of each repository to your Git project. So we just say yes, and then if we look at our git diff, we can see that it's added that child 2, it's added the state section, and that child is on the master branch with some commit, and child 2 is also on its master branch with another commit. So we'll go ahead and re-add our Git project and commit it. We'll say track initial state of dependent. Okay, and then so the next thing we'll do is actually go into one of these dependent repositories and make a change. So let's just add a new line into this test file, and then add that and commit it. So now I can do another Git project save, except this time I only want to save the one repository we did. So I have GPS alias to Git project save for convenience, and then to specify the repositories you want to save, you do 2 dashes, similar to how you'd do a Git checkout for only a certain file, and then specify the names of the repositories you want to save. In this case, we only want to save child, so we're going to do GPS -- child. Okay, and then it asks us to save. We hit save, and then if we look at our diff, we can see that child is now tracking a new commit. Okay, so once again, we'll add that and commit it. So the next thing that Git project is very useful for is for when you have multiple users working on different branches. So say I have another user who's working on some feature, and that feature involves him working in some of the dependent repositories as well. So we can just check out his branch. So git check out some feature. And if we look at our Git project now, we can see that he is actually tracking a different branch in child 2, and he's also added a third dependency called child 3, which is also tracking a branch called some feature. So here we can just run a git project load, which will automatically load the and I forgot to push child earlier, so I can do that now. And it will actually warn me that I have unpushed work in child so that I don't lose anything. And I can just say yes, and it will automatically push it for me so that I didn't lose any work. And now it recognizes that there's a unknown subrepository called child3 and asks me if I want to clone it, and I can just say yes, I would like to clone that. And now if I look in my dependencies, you can see I have all 3, and child 3 will automatically already be on the new branch. So this is an easy way to pick up right where somebody else left off without having to manually switch to the feature branches and all the dependencies. So this concludes our tutorial, and for further information on Git project, including how to install it, please refer to the aransgeo/git project repo on GitHub.